help we can get at this point of time, because most of the hospitals are not operating, means not providing support for the, clinical research. So, or any advices we can get, it will be helpful.
So one question I have is this: in this case, you are actually using it for diagnosis of pneumonia or for screening of pneumonia?
Screening of pneumonia.
Only screening, because
here we are looking, here there is no availability of X-rays or blood tests, especially primary care centers.
So, so in this case, what will be the sensitivity and specificity? What do you expect?
Yes, so we are actually targeting more than 90% actually accuracy. So currently, this is the whatever the physical observation sensitivity and specificity. So we are trying to we are currently now our accuracy is now to 80%. So we are trying to increase that, because we need more data. So currently we have around 2,200 clinical samples, but we need more data to get it means increase the accuracy sensitivity.
And when you say data, what kind of data are you looking for? You're looking for CT scans, X-rays, or what are you looking for?
Yeah, so one is our data, which is with our training model, whichever comes, and we want to check with the gold standard, which is clinically diagnosed cases. It is through a CT scan or through physical observations. Means the specialists are already classified. These are cases of pneumonia, actual cases of pneumonia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nivedit, Arvind here.
One more question.
Yeah, Navratna, Arvind, one question. Some of the parameters you are checking are close to even COVID induced lung failure symptoms, right?
Yes, actually this could have been a very good product when it is completely ready. So we decided to defeature that parts, because of the AI part we could not complete. So because that's what we mentioned right at this, we decided to make this remote oscillation, means because with the PP they cannot actually hear it, means they cannot put it, even they have to sterilize stethoscope multiple times. And this one also, so that this patient can hold it, or the nurse can hold it, and it can actually give just remotely, it can the doctor can hear it. So this is very for the specific to COVID actually. So we are trying to do.
Okay. Thanks, Nivedit.
Thank you, Nivedit. Thank you very much. So we'll have the next speaker now. Suren, are you there?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Surendranath Reddy, please speak out and present your present. Yes, we can.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Suren from Sunbeam. A quick intro about my team. I handle the entire technology, and I'm the CEO founder. We have Prashant, who heads our operations. He's also chairperson of IEEE. Satya handles all our sales, BDM, etc. Rakesh handles all our full stack development. We have a team of around 20 people. So what we already do is we manufacture 3D printers. We've done bioprinting. We've been using 3D printing to solve prototyping purposes. We've been teaching 3D printing for quite some time. So what we've been doing over the last 1 year is we've been trying to automate our prototyping services, 3D printing services, into a complete manufacturing as a service platform. So we've been building this over the last few months, I would say. It was in a beta stage. So we recently, due to the COVID-19 situation, we've moved out of beta, we've made it live. So what essentially happens here is whoever requires prototyping, since that people are right now looking to manufacture in India, we thought this should be, more of helping startups. They don't know what to prototype, where to prototype, what kind of services, what kind of technologies to use, etc. So we've built a service, a platform on print.freeing.in. So this is live at this moment. At this moment, we've been shipping out close to 50 to 100 parts a day. So we offer services around 3D printing, vacuum casting, CNCs, etc. So the idea is to make it. We've been doing all these things manually, where we talk to customers, we get the orders, we give them codes, etc. Right now, we're moving this 100% automated. The only intervention where it's happening is, to check the manufacturability of customers' files, customers' parts, and probably to ship the parts. On the order, getting the order side completely, the platform is automated. On the execution side, we've connected a good number of machines to the cloud already. So we're trying to do that on a much larger scale. We've been doing beta testing for about 10, 15 machines connected to the cloud and then operating them remotely since our staff is not able to come to office. That's something that we've achieved. Right now, we're trying to scale it up into a much larger ecosystem where anybody places an order for some parts, they get manufactured right away and then get shipped out probably the next day or the day after that. So that's where we are. So what we're trying to do essentially is to build manufacturing as a service as a much larger platform. Now, since we already built 3D printers, we manufacture 3D printers on a large level. That equipment is helping out. We already have knowledge of hardware and software over there. We're using that and then just building a cloud level system on top of it. So that's a very big pitch about us.
Questions?
Are you building a platform to connect for the 3D printing shops to get the the models from your cloud solution? I mean, I didn't get. I'm sorry, I didn't get are you printing? Are you into printing, or are you into providing a cloud solution where I could upload the models and the 3D can be printed by any 3D printing shops?
So right now, we are offering 3D printing as a service. We are doing everything in-house, but we are also building a distributed manufacturing system.
Okay, so you have a cloud solution where which I could upload any of the model, or you will make the model for us?
No, you will have to make the model and then upload it to our cloud.
Okay.
Designing is not provided by us. We could do that manually, but the automated system does not allow designing.
Okay.
It's a very simple drag and drop. So you can just upload a file and then choose, what material or what technology you need it and what kind of quality you're expecting. Go ahead and pay for it. On the backend, we check for the manufacturability of the part. If it works, we start manufacturing the part right away.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So so this is Vijay from L&T.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do I upload? So if I want to manufacture a part.
So you can see the link over here on the slide, print.3d.in.
Does it give me a flexibility to do the modeling even on your platform above?
No modeling. It's just you can model it on any of the platforms like Fusion 360 or CATIA or SolidWorks, and just upload the file over here.
Okay.
And it provides all the flexibility of what powder to use, what is the grade of the powder, everything. I mean, and the technology of the printing.
At this moment, I think we have about 10 to 15 materials on it. Anything beyond that, we're still taking some orders manually, and we're helping out. So we're trying to integrate everything automated.
Yeah, one last question. Does it work with all 3D printers? And how do I know what it is the printable size?
What it is? It should work with all 3D printers.
What is the printable size?
Printable size, we're keeping it about up to 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter.
And does it work with all 3D printers?
Yes, everything that supports, it should work with all 3D printers. There's no challenge.
Is this platform specific to your 3D printing facility, or this connects to any 3D printing facility?
No, right now, it connects only to us. We have not built a distributed manufacturing. We've already collected the data for enabling distributed manufacturing. They're yet to connect to, a distributed manufacturing cloud. So that part is not done yet. So that's why I put it on the lower on the calendar. We are able to connect our machines to the cloud. We have that ready. If someone else has 3D printers on the other edge somewhere, and let's say, so we kind of brought the history of manufacturing primarily around the COVID season. So if you knew about the face shields that are being used very widely in India today, We were one of the pioneers who did this in February, March. We did a very relative small number of facial UPD prints, and then we gave them out. And then a huge demand arose where we went into injection molding. And then in areas where injection molding or logistics were not able to reach, we onboarded them onto a simple platform, and then we shared the orders directly to them, so they were able to 3D print it on that side and then provide it to hospitals, doctors over there. So we do have a distributed manufacturing system, but it's not automated yet.
So one last question is, what is the innovation here?
So the whole platform.
All right. Thanks, Suren. We'll come back to you for any other questions that we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kajal, are you there? Kajal?
हाँ sir. Hello sir.
Please go ahead. Present your PPT.
Hi sir. This is Kajal. I'm not visible, I suppose. So I think Sarika, one of my team members, is going to take you through the PPT.
Okay, go
Actually,
ahead.
we are an Ayurveda tech company, and Sarika will do the rest.
Sarika, go ahead. Present your PPT.
Yes. Hi.
Atulya, can you switch off your video, please?
Yes. Can you share my? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so Tattva Balance is our first product from Nadi Pulse Prognostics, as Kajal mentioned, and we are all about balancing the body. As you would all know that Ayurveda is one of the world's holistic healing systems, and it has started gaining a lot of prominence in the current times, and also because of the coronavirus pandemic. We have always been a company and our products which is based on Ayurveda, and that is what our first product is going to be, where we are going to look at Nadi Parikshan and embrace it with technology to give Nadi Parikshan a better system. So what in the current scenario we have is there is no scientific validation for a technique like Nadi Parikshan, which is the core of Ayurveda. So something that you call as Nadi Parikshan or pulse diagnosis is a complex and a very long learning training process. And there are currently only 2 companies in the world which has tried to create a technique which can imitate Nadi Parikshan, and we are playing in that space. And what we are trying to do is to develop a system which can read Nadi and at the same time not violate the real rules of this Ayurvedic science. By using technology, we will be able to store this Nadi data and extract its features like rate, rhythm, pressure, and so on. And then based on an algorithm, we will be able to give a prognosis of the disease or a medical condition that a person can be susceptible to. And then further to that, based on these results, we will be able to give actionable insights in terms of food, yoga, and lifestyle that a person can actually imbibe in his routine and in his way of life. So that is what we are trying to do with Nadi Parikshan. How we are different, we are creating a fully automatic and scientific device for Nadi Parikshan. We also want to bring out a wellness band, which will actually be the first of its kind based on the principles of Ayurveda. This is going to be a Nadi Parikshan test, which will actually give the full body analysis of a person and at the same time get an understanding about what his susceptibilities or prognosis to a medical condition can be. And at the same time, give daily suggestions which can be included in their lifestyle. We are currently at a stage where we have been able to develop our first version or test version of the hardware and at the same time sync it and with an app. So at this current stage, we will be able to give real-time Nadi data and show it on our app, which is currently available on Play Store. We are further funded and supported by quite a lot of government organizations, Startup India, Government of Gujarat, NASSCOM, Niti Prayas, and also the big grant. And so our device is for everyone. At the same time, the focus is more on doctors and how we can get doctors' help to validate our device and its data and create a ecosystem which can reinvent Ayurveda and make it more accessible to everyone.
Thank you. The first question is, how do you validate that your prognosis on Nadi, that system does it correct, and all downstream impacts are based on the accuracy of this? Can you answer that, please?
Yes. So we are yet to take on research trials to get a number of data points which will help us understand whether our data is coming as accurate and consistent. At this point, we know that it is accurate and consistent based on our working knowledge, but we will have a proper pilot testing and a research trial which will help us do that. At the same time, we have two checkpoints. First is there are doctors who are very experienced in Nadi. Therefore, if our device data matches with the doctor's knowledge or doctor's diagnosis, we will be able to say that, there is accuracy to our data. The second is, can we identify data patterns which will then be in realistic related to the disease a person has. So if somebody has a particular medical condition, is our data coming consistent for all those medical conditions?
Every disease is described in a way that is a particular kind of disease and particular kind of pattern should come. So expected pattern, if it is coming in the pulse, then we are very sure about it. And also on the basis of the symptoms of the disease, we can predict what kind of pattern is it going to come. So we can validate on those data points. I hope I answered your question.
Yes.
Any other question?
Hi, Sarika. Just one more question. You're yet to start. You're at a trial phase.
Yes, we are getting into the trial phase now.
We have done minimal trials at our workplace and stuff, but for proper pilot testing, we are yet to go, and we are ready with our ecosystem. And because of this pandemic, we are stuck over here.
Yeah.
So, one more question. How does it, if I'm a patient, how does it help me with this device? Or if I'm a doctor, how does it help the doctor? A physician, normal physician with allopathy.
You're talking about a physician in allopathy.
Yeah, anyone. So if it's a doctor, are you focusing on Nadi doctors or are you focusing on allopathy physicians who could derive some outcome from this? Or are you focusing on the patients?
The primary focus is on Ayurvedic doctors, where this system becomes an aid for them to store their data and at the same time use a technique like this in Ayurveda to predict, disease patterns or understand diseases better.
And for an allopathic doctor,
something which
it will aid with food, lifestyle, and yoga for a patient.
For a patient or any other consumer, it will help them balance their body or balance their lifestyle, which is unique to each one of them, and that is what this principle of Ayurveda says.
And that is for faster and better recovery. So yeah, that will help definitely an allopathic doctor too.
So is this a device? So this is Vijay. Is this a device which will do a continuous monitoring?
No, we just need 30 seconds of data taken at a time, and that's all. 30 seconds of Nadi.
So it's a spot investigation.
If you can share my screen, then I can show you the device. Can somebody turn on?
That's okay. Yeah. That's okay. I've understood. I just wanted to understand whether it's a spot investigation or a continuous monitoring. And you are saying it's
just 30 seconds of data.
Yeah, it's a spot investigation.
So are you trying to prove the existence or rather efficacy of NADI as a technique, or have you already proven it? You have data set already available with you?
Yeah, we do have a data set of 200 people, and that validated by two of the best doctors in Ayurveda, Dr. Vasant Lad and Dr. Sudhindra Upur. So yeah, we have kind of proven, but like on the larger scale for the scientific community, we want to prove Nadi technique as a science. So for that, we need a larger scale of data. So we are going to fetch it from the hospitals.
Kajal, this is very interesting. I am sure a lot of questions will have to be answered by you after the session. We'll require Gaurav to come on. Time up for you. Thank you very much, Kajal and Sarika.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gaurav, are you there?
Yeah, hi.
Gaurav, go ahead.
Am I audible?
Start.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Yes,
Can you
and
see my slide?
yes, we can see your screen. Yes, go ahead, please.
Sure. So Doppelio, we are basically, we built what is the test automation platform for IoT applications, and what we really are automating is the piece where the device dependence for anybody who's building an application lies. So essentially what the platform is doing is it's virtualizing, letting you virtualize devices and simulate their data behavior. A quick introduction to the team. So basically, these are 4 founders of the company. I'm Gaurav, and the rest of the other 3 colleagues I have are all from an engineering background. The way this whole thing really came about was a problem that kept bugging us in the various roles we were playing in our previous life, which was essentially the fact that making sure that inside an IoT solution where there's software, there's network connectivity and hardware, for people who are building the software, to make sure that the software will perform or will function as expected was an incredible challenge. And if we kept going through it, we started thinking about there got to be a smarter way of doing it. We founded this company in August of last year. Since then, we made decent progress in the sense that we were part of the Bosch's DNA Accelerator program. We were selected among the best performing startups there. We completed 3 projects for Bosch. 2 of them were, I would say, pilots, and the third one is a paid project. All 3 in the connected vehicle space. We were also chosen as one of the winners for Elevate earlier this year. Now, to explain the problem that we're solving here, so like I said, in an IoT solution, if you look at an IoT system, if it fails to perform, the consequences can be highly adverse. I mean, they could range from a reputational loss to actually the loss of life at the other end. It could be extreme financial losses due to delayed product launches, recalls, and so on, so forth. And one other thing that is common to a lot of these serious failures that do come up, and these are the ones that are very highly visible, is that the problem usually lies in the software. The software either has bugs, has performance issues, has unforeseen conditions. And what that really points to, that it is extremely critical that we test these IoT applications comprehensively and early. And again, our focus is on the software testing as opposed to really the device itself. Now, it's very easy for us to say that they should be tested comprehensively and tested early. The challenge is IoT environments are very complex. If you look at from the world from the perspective of the software, a software is actually taking in data or sending instructions to a large number of devices, a large variety of devices. Each of these devices have their own data models, their own data formats. There are multiple connectivity protocols, connectivity conditions. There's other data that is coming in. And then the apps are being released all the time. The frequency of these changes is, in a CI/CD world today, there is no end to it. And if you look at this complexity, it essentially becomes very, very hard for anybody who's writing the software to be sure that their software has been tested. The other problem is teams are siloed. Software, hardware teams don't talk to each other, don't understand each other, and all these different pieces are coming together, creating much more risk into the environment. And then recreating physical conditions is very difficult. Now, what do people do today? They will either say, I'll get some recorded data for, let's say, a particular period of time. Problem with recorded data is you are not likely to have the edge conditions and scenarios you need to test. So, for example, if I'm testing a building system and I want to test for a fire as an event, it's unlikely to be there in a recorded data. The other thing people do is say, okay, let's set up a physical lab, which is expensive, which is time consuming, and actually impractical, because once you're talking about testing thousands of devices and multiple devices having those conditions, it's very difficult. and also setting those conditions difficult. So that is really what got us saying that, look, there has to be a smarter way to doing this. And that's when we came up with Doppelio. Now, Doppelio has two big pieces to it. The name Doppelio actually derives from the German for twin, which is Doppel and Doppel plus IO. And what we have at the heart of the system is really, the ability to model any device into what we call a Doppel. And there you can actually very easily model any device's data behavior in what we call a data twin of a thing. And the second thing you can do is you can simulate multiple scenarios on these devices, and you can simulate large number of devices with varying scenarios. You can also simulate what we are talking about as systems of things. There are people who did write simulators which were essentially, specific device things. What we created here is the ability to do system of things simulation, and also the fact that we cover both functional and scale testing. It's a low-code platform. It's fully managed SaaS. I've summarized here the various aspects of what is unique, what's the value proposition. The core value proposition we are offering to customers is essentially reduced risk of failure and faster time to market. In a post-COVID world, we're also enabling remote team working. So, for example, one of the projects we did for Bosch was post-lockdown. The entire team is distributed globally, and they were able to test their application without having any need to resort to physical devices. Our target segment is really enterprises to begin with. Then we're looking at going into the SIs and IT services firms next. The revenue model is a monthly subscription fee plus a usage fee. In terms of competition, what's unique about it, first of all, there isn't anybody who's got a product which is as comprehensive. The most common thing the customers end up doing is do DIY. A DIY is both expensive, time-consuming, and impractical, because that necessarily is not the core business of our customers. There are a couple of companies which did come out with products, but very limited scope of offerings compared to what we've got. Just to finally say, this is our mantra. We want to move the world of IoT away from test and pray world to one where there is success assurance, and that's really what we're about. So that's a brief overview. I'm happy to take any questions.
Two questions from my side, Suparna here. First, in the pricing model, what about the development or particular test case, whatever is required for the use case scenario?
Okay, so this tool is going to be used by testers and developers at our client. So the effort to create the test case is something they'll do on the platform. But what they can do is once they set up and create the test suites, they can rerun as a regression platform anytime. But the test suite, test case creation is up to the individual developers and testers in the customer organizations to do. So essentially, what this platform is doing is just to explain what happens. Somebody can create the test case, but the test case is actually executed off our platform, in the sense that the simulation of the test case is run out of it. We scale the infrastructure, auto scale the infrastructure. We generate all those data streams which are coming in concurrently, feeding into the test platform that the customer is using. It could be Selenium or whatever. But this is the API they will call. So they'll call it Doppelio API and we plug in.
Okay. Okay. And the second question I have is on the data. Is it only character-based data or also pictures, videos, and other type of data?
So with pictures and videos, see, we can't simulate pictures and videos. Okay. So what we are working in the next release, what we'll have the ability to do is to be able to plug in any pre-existing data streams, video streams you have. So let's say you're doing smart cities, for example. Bulk of the data is video out there, right? So you can take the video segments you've got as your test data, combine it with the simulations of lighting and various other sensors that are going to be there in large numbers, and then actually run your test. But you've got to take some video that is already out there. You're not creating synthetic video.
What makes you very different from your competition?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry,
one question I had, Gaurav, was, do you have any kind of published volumetrics on the kind of data sets that you have tested in terms of the devices, numbers, the kind of images? So some performance metrics, is that something Okay, can you talk about?
Yes. So the last one that we did for the client I talked about was we did for 100,000 devices. Okay, so we were simulating 100,000 connected cars, and that's what we did. We are right now gearing up to do 1 million devices with them. Be mindful that these are telematics devices, so there is obviously a lot more complexity. And what we've also been able to do is to run a large number of edge containers. So essentially, we are not only simulating behavior for the cloud, but also simulating the behavior at the edge on the gateway. So right now we can do 100,000 comfortably. We are looking at crossing 1 million plus. I mean, we've pretty much engineered the platform for it, but we haven't run tests.
Okay.
All right, Gaurav, thanks a lot for your presentation. We'll have any questions sent to you if there's any. Thank you.
Thank you.
Atulya, are you there?
Can someone please my?
Atulya, go ahead, bring in your presentation up.
I have given my presentation to
No, we can't hear you. If you have difficulty in running the presentation, I'll ask Saswat to run it for you. No,
I think he's on mute now, Ratan. Now Ratan is on mute.
Atulya, you are on mute.
Can you hear?
Yes, you will have to switch off your video. Probably you have a broadband issue. Are you finding it difficult to find the share button? Saswat, can you upload Atulya's presentation?
Yeah, just a minute. I think it's IoTN Technologies, right?
Yes, correct. Go ahead. Atulya, Saswat, my colleague, is presenting. You go ahead with the audio.
Just
can you hear me? Can someone hear me?
Yes, no, but I would suggest you switch off your video because you have a connectivity issue. Just do the audio part.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Saswat is presenting your PPT.
Sure. So thanks a lot. IoTN Technologies is a 12-year-old
I think we can't hear him. We lost him.
I think the connection quality is very bad.
Yeah.
We need to tell him he's breaking.
Can you?
Atulya, we can't hear you.
Oops.
Can you dial in, or we'll take you? Atulya, if you have a problem in connection, we'll present your case. But after another round of some other startup, you can call in, dial in if you cannot connect it on Team. All right, Saswat, go down. I think let Judy read it. No, Saswat, don't close it.
Okay, sorry.
Atulya, can you try speaking?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go very quickly. We are a 3.5-year-old startup company in the circuit. Already developed an IoT platform One of the solution of the IoT platform is Wi-Fi camera, and we have a couple of more ideas about this particular platform to be extended in electric mobility arena. The other vertical where we are working is in the artificial intelligence algorithm development, which is mainly in image processing and video processing and computer vision algorithms. So we have a team of almost now 20 engineers working with us. And most of the senior leadership of this particular organization is veterans coming from ST Microelectronics, Accenture, LG R&D, Siemens and Motorola, so on and so forth. I myself at Alexi in the past. So can you little go now? Yeah. So these are our current product offerings. What we are. So one is Wi-Fi camera, and we are sampling it in India. The revenue status is we yet make any revenue on this. But yes, this hardware platform and our own compression algorithm is already been developed. On the AI side, we have a traffic algorithm, basically to find out tracking the traffic predictions and road conditions. Also, we are extending this algorithm in logistic companies. This has been developed for India as well as Japanese clients, and the revenue status of this particular vertical. We have another AI algorithm which is image processing. So what we are doing is image segmentation and enhancements, background replays, and object tagging. There's a huge market for this in India as well as in Japan. So we are making the algorithm. The computer vision algorithm, which is for safety, security, surveillance, event both we already have the sales representatives identified in Tokyo, Munich, Hanover. The company has many parts. That's myself, Raj, the company. He is the chief of R&D, and we have my advanced. So current expectation from IoT is this already it is 3.5-year-old company, and my storm is to take it to next level. That's what my expectation.
Atulya, you were barely audible, so I think we'll send the jury your PPT later on and let them ask their questions. All right? If you can hear us, we'll probably require a more authentic way to hear you out. All right?
Right.
Okay. We'll request Kumarapuram to come. He's from Gramoworks in agriculture. Kumar, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah,
am I audible?
go ahead. Yes,
Yeah.
you are audible, and can you start your presentation?
Yes. I have Supriya also joined at the other side. So she's
Yeah,
just
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Good afternoon all. My name is Gopal, and Supriya is on the other side. We both are the co-founders at Gramoworks. We are an early stage agri-tech startup. We aim to revolutionize the way water is utilized for agriculture by utilizing on-ground IoT systems and data-based analytics. So what do we do? This is the problem. Water and weather are the most important factors that actually affect the agriculture outcome. majority of the cases, the farmers are struggling with weather uncertainties, especially erratic rainfall. Now, there are a high number of weather-based applications that give you like temperature, humidity, and all that, but they don't give you any kind of recommendations. So there aren't any data-based or decision support systems that are available. This is precisely the area that we are working on in terms of resource management. So what do? We aim to bring indicators and insights to farmers or customers in this area on how much water is needed, when water is required, and specific to the type of crop that one is actually growing. So all you have to do is install the hardware, which consists of a multitude of sensors, and install the app, key in certain features like the latitude, longitude, the elevation, the geographical location that you're based out of, the soil types, and then the magic happens. We are able to compute the exact quantum of water that is needed, specific to the type of crop that one is actually growing. So what are the benefits to the farmers? One, it helps in accurate needs of water for the specific type of crop that one is growing, provides weather prediction up to 3 days in advance. In terms of functionality, we are able to provide remote control of your irrigation systems. For example, you can automatically turn on off your pumps, your solenoid valves. As a causal factor, what is there is improvement in yield by at least 30%, reduction in the labor, and finally, water savings of up to 25%. So what does the technology actually entail? So we have real-time sensors that are placed on the ground, which is able to give data on parameters such as rainfall, other microclimatic conditions on an hourly basis. This is captured by our backend, and we are able to compute based on certain algorithms the quantification of water that is needed based on the soil type, the geographical location that one is actually growing. Finally, for the front end, we have a user-friendly dashboard. Right now, we are using an Android application to kind of showcase this data to the farmer. This is the technology stack that we are actually utilizing right now. The next, I'll ask Supriya to go over the team.
Yes, thanks, Gopal. So who are we at Gramworks here? We have Gopal, who just spoke. He's the co-founder of Gramworks. He comes with more than 7 years of experience and previously working in global foundries. He has a master's from Boston University, and he's a hardware enthusiast and also a progressive farmer. I myself come with more than 6 years of experience and previously worked in Novo Nordisk. I have a master's in management from Dartmouth College and primarily work with the analytics and machine learning part of this technology. We have Ajinkya, who's the sales and operation head, and he comes with an MBA and 4+ years of work experience in this particular field. We have Ankit, who is a full stack developer who has helped us build a lot of the technology that you just saw. And the youngest member of our team, we have Navdeep, who is the hardware engineer working with us from MS Ramaya. From the advisors perspective, we have a mix of advisors who provide us not only the subject matter expertise, such as Dr. Manoj in the field of agriculture, but we also have expertise from Hari, who provides technology, process mentorship, and also design thinking into the way we build our products. And we have Mr. KG Ananthakrishnan, who is the business advisor and provides business and finance knowledge. So where is Gramworks in this whole journey? Gramworks was established in the beginning of 2019, that is last year. Most of last year, we did a lot of research and development to understand what are the issues, what is the market. We went on ground to understand what are the issues that the farmers are facing on a day-to-day basis. Fast forward to this year, we have started the production of a minimal viable product. We also expanded our team to now 9 members. We are based in the NASSCOM COE IoT Center, where we are developing our product. We also got selected by one of the largest universities, agri-universities in India, that is NAM, for their incubation program. And post this, in the last few months, we have been primarily developing our hardware and the software technologies. When we look at the hardware, due to being based in the COE IoT, we were able to get tools and technologies to actually develop the hardware and do some initial testing. Right now, we are in the process of getting the circuit board manufactured. We will soon, in the next stage, go into the compilation and testing. In terms of the software, where we are is that we have done most of the initial development of the software. We plan to launch a free version soon, which is end of this month. We are also working on a new artificial neural network and spatial model to help provide certain models on evapotranspiration, which actually defines the amount of water that is lost by plants. And something interesting that we also did during this whole lockdown and COVID was to create a digital platform to connect farmers and buyers. And this actually helped us to connect with more than 100 plus farmers in across 5 states and also 10 plus FPOs. Not only we also connected with some of the big players in this market, such as Udaan and Samunati, and they also benefited by this by getting a new platform to interact with new farmers, etc. Lastly, I would just like to leave you with that we at Groundworks would like to create social, economical, and environmental value to our society. And that is through improving the social standing of our farmers, providing food security and cost savings, and last but not the least, provide water savings and soil preservation. So we at Groundworks aim to bring predictability to farming. We are open to questions now.
Thank you.
You didn't talk about any pricing model. So how is it placed in the market?
Yeah. So, madam, we have pricing all the way ranging from 20,000 rupees to 60,000 rupees. Now, these kind of depend on the features that one is availing. So the basic one comes with functionalities such as automatically turning on your pumps, your valves with certain sensors. The one with the maximum, the 60,000 is the one where we have things like rain gauge, wind speed, wind direction, and so on. So the pricing is varying from 20,000 to 60,000 rupees.
Gopal, Arvind here, how do you, give groundwater related inputs in terms of availability? What data you use as input?
So at this point of time, the groundwater thing we have yet not figured out. We don't know how much water is there in the aquifer. And
exactly.
That's up to the hydrological survey. There is hydrological tools that are available and so on. That is some bit of thing we would like to do it, and we are trying to do in terms of pathfinding. But at this point of time, we're just working on two things. One is quantification. There are things like drip irrigation that has happened, but they don't quantify how much water needs to be utilized. That is one. Second is there are crops such as potato, onion, tomato, and things like that, which at specific stages need a certain amount of water. For example, in potato, there are stages like stolonization and tuber phases, where an appropriate amount of water, if given, will help in yield improvement. When their yield improves, there is obviously a certain metric that the farmer will enable in achieving. That is in terms of higher productivity. So these are the two areas that we are tackling.
Okay, you're looking at utilization and yield improvement. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have one question. Based on the information, so this is this also integrated with your own hardware, which basically does automatic irrigation based on the data which you have gathered, or is it primarily a software data solution which is then can be shared with the potential hardware suppliers?
So it's an integration of both hardware as well as software. Hardware is where if you can just go to the slide, so where we have the image. It has multiple sensors, which is through a GSM based, it is sending data to our cloud. If you can look at this image on the left hand side, that's the hardware. Nothing but a bunch of sensors that are there, and the data is relayed over the cloud. And then in the cloud is when we have the algorithm and things like that. And as a front end, we have the app that is there.
Just to also add to what Gopal said, in terms of switching and oning of the pumps, it is done through our own hardware. And we have also included certain features like theft protection in our hardware stack. So it's of course getting the sensors, microclimatic condition, etc. But it's also relaying back to on off the pump, which is incorporated in our own IoT hardware.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
So when you mentioned about your pricing cost of 20,000, I heard you say 20,000
Okay, if
onwards.
no more questions, can we ask Srihari to come in? Sorry.
Should we take the last question, sir, or?
Yeah, just a question. This is Vijay. You mentioned about the pricing strategy of 20,000 onwards, if I heard you correctly.
That's right.
So there will be a one-time cost and there is a recurring cost as well, right?
Right. So this is a model that we are yet studying, sir. So initially we want to go with the fixed cost basis and then the pay-as-you-go kind of an approach. So we are doing our pilot testing and also trying to get some insights from the farmers on which is the best methodology. But as of now, it's a one-time payment.
Okay.
So if there are no more questions, can we ask Srihari to come in?
Hi, good
Thank you.
afternoon, Srihari here. Can I take over and
Go
share
ahead,
the screen?
Please do that.
Okay, thanks. Please just confirm if you can see my screen and I'm audible, and I will kickstart the presentation.
Yes, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Srihari, and I will be presenting today on behalf of Factory.ai. So Factory.ai is conceptualized by Hitanjan, Adrian, and me when we realized the need for Industry 4.0 solutions to be more human-centric, particularly in countries like India, where labor is still a large part of the manufacturing workforce. Hitanjan is in charge of the product. He was formerly the AI/ML lead at a Silicon Valley startup that was founded by Tesla's ex-chief information officer. I'm in charge of the strategic direction for the company and have significant experience in manufacturing and technology. Most recently, I was involved in the implementation of advanced planning and scheduling systems for the aerospace industry. And lastly, Adrian oversees day-to-day operations and customer engagement. He has a master's in industrial engineering from Virginia Tech and comes with significant operations experience across different industries. So because of our background in manufacturing and operations, we noticed that factories today are generating more data than ever before. And the potential for generating data is only increasing day by day. Yet the tools used to access and analyze this data are often outdated, resulting in the creation of information silos within the organization. And new systems often come with steep learning curves and steeper price tags. So imagine if you could simplify all this by hiring just one smart employee. Meet Sensei, our smart assistant for the manufacturing shop floor, where you ask a question and get an answer, all in a simple Google search type interface for your factory. But the important question is, what makes a tool like Sensei smart? Well, it's data. And this is a challenge when it comes to manufacturers in India, because 99% of them, being MSMEs, are predominantly labor intensive, while most Industry 4.0 solutions today tend to focus mainly on machine sensor data. For this reason, most MSMEs are not even on the grid when it comes to tracking of manual work. The data is either not available, not accessible, or not reliable. So the first step really in all of this is to help these labor-intensive MSMEs get on the grid. And how do we do that? By offering them our DataWiz platform and making it the easiest way for them to begin digitizing their manual data points with simple plug-and-play technology, paperless data capture, and no upfront investment. Really, all that is needed to get started is a web dashboard and a mobile app. So why will people use our product? Well, by reducing the time and effort required to log data, we reduce the inertia for people to do so. Furthermore, incentivizing data logging through gamification techniques and allowing companies to link this to a reward and recognition scheme can provide additional motivation. And focusing on the human experience means we will have better data, which will lead to better insights and greater value for the company, creating a positive feedback loop. Why will companies buy our product? Because we made it very affordable with no upfront investments or tie-in periods. We have a scalable pay-as-you-grow model that is linked to the number of active users. And lastly, our system is plug and play and can be deployed 100% remotely in just a matter of days and not weeks or months, thereby significantly reducing the time to value. So here are some results from an initial pilot we carried out just before the lockdown hit. It was with a manufacturer of aerospace parts in Bangalore's Jigni industrial area. We collected data from 10 users over a 2-week period and benchmarked against a combination of handwritten and barcode scanner data capture. Our results showed a 67% reduction in average time per confirmation, an 80% reduction in training time per operator, and a 70% increase in overall data accuracy. So as we discussed, most MSMEs in India today tend to fall in these 3 categories, where they are either not capturing data, writing it down by hand, or digitizing after capture, all of which leads to limited or no data analysis. As a first step, we want to get them to a point where data is being digitized at source so that they can start benefiting from the value of real-time analysis. This is where we are today. From there, we want to introduce them to the benefits of AI and ML-based technology through use cases such as predictive insights for better on-time completion, recommendations for operator job and shift assignments for improved productivity and quality, and eventually expand to include an AI-driven knowledge sharing and training platform to help boost employee engagement and collaboration. Finally, getting them to a point where data capture, which is essentially a non-value added activity, is completely automated and every employee in the manufacturing plant has access to their own personalized AI assistant to greatly enhance their cognitive capabilities. So to conclude, I would like to say that our association with Center of Excellence so far has definitely helped us think bigger and expand our product vision. And what we hope to gain going forward is help with sales and marketing initiatives and hardware development. Thanks. I'm open to any questions.
Shivali, do you want to go ahead?
Sriha, can I ask you?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Srihari. This is Millie from Diageo. And though we don't come under the MSME, but we are still very labor intensive. That's because the ROI works when we have, we've experimented a lot. But recently we were looking at the shop floor automation, primarily software IoT devices, sensors, which have integrated workforce management as well. I just wanted to understand, how are you different from a shop floor automation hardware software which has an integrated workforce management as well?
Okay, right. So, the core focus of our solution is from the point of view of the human experience. So we come from a manufacturing background, and because of that, we've seen that at the end of the day, the best solution in a factory or on a shop floor is the one that the operators use. So many cases we've seen where companies have systems, but the data that is being captured is not accurate. So how we differentiate is we focus on capturing those manual data points in a very easy to use and quick and efficient manner on the shop floor. So, a company cannot do away with manual data points that they're generating. So for example, you may have sensors to capture whether a machine is running or not, but it's very difficult to know if it is down, why it is down. So for a human to rely on a human to give that input to, a software or to a system, the human has to be incentivized, and it has to be really easy for them to do so that there's no inertia. And that is what we primarily focus on with the DataViz and Sensei platform.
Got it.
So is this also integrated with your shop floor data sources?
Yes, that's right. So, we take for like an assumption that today sensors for capturing data from machines, sensors for building management systems like temperature, humidity, they're widely available. And most factories we visited even have them. But what they don't have, and the part of the picture that is always missing, is accurate labor data. And often, even when they do have systems like barcode scanners, we've seen many cases where, there are flash confirmations and there's not timely capture of that data. And so even if the data is being captured, it's not usable in any format. So, what we are starting off by saying is that, look, that is the most significant component of data the factory is generating. So if they have to start from somewhere, they should first start by capturing their labor data. And then we will slowly integrate, the other data sources to give them more enhanced analysis and take them on a journey, not, sort of a big bang approach from day one, but start them off, let them see the value, and eventually get them, from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3.
Okay.
Any
in
more
a
question?
complex environment, yes. So,
Go ahead,
hi,
go ahead.
this is Suparna from LTI. So, in a complex shop floor environment or a field environment, what is the estimated time for collecting this kind of human knowledge data in your experience?
So the thing is that, as far as our system is concerned, we can, is it regarding the deployment of the system or is it regarding the use of the system? Sorry if I can clarify.
Creating the knowledge base, getting the
Okay,
data, that time.
Okay, so the thing is that once the system is deployed, the benefits are almost instantaneous, because when the company starts to see the benefit of having the real-time, data analysis, and they can start making the time from data to decisions reduces drastically. So that is the first step where they're making real-time decisions. And as we collect the data over a period of time, we've seen, in fact, in as little as 2 to 3 weeks, we're able to see trends regarding, which operator is better working in which shift, and what is the part qualities that are related to, certain combinations of operators and shifts and machines. You can start getting insights and recommendations which are very useful for management in as little as just, 2 to 3 weeks.
Any other question? So one question to you from my side.
Right.
Are there some real use cases? Of course, Ravi has already written that. Actually, are there some real use cases? Can you provide some examples?
Sure. So the first thing is that, when we start capturing the labor data accurately, we're able to start seeing, things like what is the efficiency related to of operators or productivity of operators related to which parts they're working on, how long they've been on the company, what is their training levels, what is the shifts that where they are most productive. And so that helps us identify, in the case of manual work, the risk of delay and potentially, to support on-time completion. Then we're also able to recommend to the company, the job and shift allocations for the operators. That helps in optimization. And root cause analysis for quality correlations. So often, that data is lost when there are quality issues, and we're able to capture and analyze that much more effectively. And of course, the last thing I'll just quickly touch upon is the, the AI-driven enterprise knowledge sharing. What we mean by that aspect of the use case is when an operator is engaged and, the device provides a two-way communication stream, they're also able to access help resources to see which were the operators that did this job efficiently, and, what were the tips that were used that that operator can provide. So when you have operators who are sort of aging operators with a lot of knowledge, at the same time you have trainees, who have joined, there's a more effective knowledge sharing that allows for enhanced productivity and quality. So we see these as very strong use cases to approach, productivity from an employee engagement point of view.
All right. If no questions, we'll move on to the next one. Thanks, Sherry.
Okay, thank you. So if there are any additional questions or if I've missed any, then
we'll
I'm
send
happy
it
to answer them by email after the call.
Yeah.
I'll provide
We'll
additional
send.
information.
Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you everyone. Thanks for the.
Thank you. Next is Shyam. Shyam,
Yeah.
are you there?
Yes, yes, sir.
Can you start your presentation, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start the presentation once I receive any confirmation that am I audible and the screen is visible.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
So good afternoon to all the dignitaries present. My name is Shyam Reddy. I'm a co-founder and CTO of Contrapine Technologies. So I'll start like this. So what is Contrapine and what are we into? Contrapine is a Bangalore-based startup. We are actually in the blooming stage. We are mainly focusing on eradicating movie piracy at the root stage. So as this as a motivation, the privacy as a motivation, we have started the company to eradicate at the root level. So coming down to the problems. So these are the four features, key features of our company, which will be focused on to eradicate. That is, number one is privacy content of the displayed content. So in the theaters, there are many people who try to rob the data and just post it online. So what are we doing that is we are trying to remove that at the root stage. And what is the advantage of it? And by this, we are trying to reduce the losses occurred by recording the content displays to the person, to people who are in the art of movie making. And it's a completely data, what is being displayed, and this is the data security issues. And revenue will be explained in the further slides. So based on our market strategy and survey, the total estimated revenue for the which is being lost due to piracy is around 12.2 billion US dollars globally. So as this being a problems, we have arrived at a solution. That is, we are the creators of content production devices who try to solve the obstacles related mentioned in the problem strategy by our innovative products. So for the next slide is what are we looking at is the global market survey we have done. As you can see, we have number of screens and the year in the two dimensions of the graph. And from 2011, the number of screens are increasing exponentially worldwide. So as the market for the movie is increased, the number of piracy creators or the one who wants to steal the content is also raised. So we are looking at numbers in the terms of lakhs, that is 1,82,000. And by the end of 2020, we are expecting 2 lakh screens being played globally. So what is the technology we are used? So we actually designed the model basis hierarchy systems. So what are we doing in theater content production is audio disruption method. So let me explain it in a crisp manner. What is audio disruption method? Actually, for any recording devices, you need a mic to record the sound of the surroundings. So we are actually, basically, we are fooling the mic, which providing some noise generated by our own devices, which will fool the mic and make the content recorded unuseful. So how we are doing it? If we are trying to place a model in the theater hardwarely, and we are monitoring the device's status in the real time to make sure that devices are working and running with the 100% efficiency. So how we are doing it? We are actually we are collaborating hardware and software model that's to make app model for eradicating the movie piracy. So how we are doing it will be explained in the further slide. Yeah. So what are our competitors? Who are our competitors? So actually, there are no competitors for creating, stopping the piracy at the root cause, but there are a number of companies which are productive at stopping the online piracy by using a digital watermark embedding. That is, when a person who tries to upload any piracy movie content creators to FB or any social medias, the digital embedded watermarking present inside the video will stop it from uploading. So that is the second stage of production. But what we are doing and how unique we are is we are trying to eradicate the piracy, the root cause in the blooming stage of the theater itself. And this is our revenue model. So we have the support of Ministry of Broadcasting, and our model is beneficiary for the producers Union of the movie industry. And our model is a two-way communication. It's a dual model for movies and theaters. So how we are doing it? It's a one-time investment model, and for 1 year it's free maintenance, and for preceding or succeeding years we are charging the maintenance cost annually. Yeah, and our team. So we are like-minded people who want to solve these issues, the piracy issues. And Ashok Kumar, Rahul, and Sham, myself, we are the co-founders. And yeah. So thanks for your patience. Any questions regarding the same are entertained to be answered.
Sham, briefly, can you describe how you're doing it technically?
Yes,
very
sir.
Briefly.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the question. So what are we doing is we are creating devices which will fool or mimic the operation of the speakers and feed the mic inside the recording devices such as phones or video cameras. We are actually fooling the mic with a high frequency noise so that the sound being recorded, that is the movie sound or the voice which is actually has useful content, is not being recorded, but instead our noise generated model is being recorded into the mic. So when it's played, it's completely noise and it's completely random and it's completely useless. So we are actually protecting the environment from being recorded.
So the first question is if one is in a theater by a recording using mobile, how will the disturbance be provided to the mobile? You just explained about creating a noise in the mic. So unless you have a no sound movie of olden times, you will not be able to get the audio. You will still be able to get the video part of the piracy part, right?
Yeah. So disrupting the sound is the primary focus of solving the piracy issue. So the advanced or second round of leveling our devices, disrupting the recorded video also, so that the recorded video is of no significance, but the person who is sitting in the theater, he can listen and see a movie inside the theater, but he's not allowed, or he can't even do that to record the video and the sound. So how the product is being developed is we are placing speakers inside the movie theater, which will just blast off this random noise that is being taken as input at the microphone receiver end.
What is the area that this device covers? Will it cover the whole hall, or will have to put multiple devices?
Actually, our device model comes with it's a size dependent area. So if the movie theater size increases, the number of speaker models will increase. So it's directly proportional to the area of the movie theater. And based on our application levels, as initial application level is of to movie theaters, we can extend it to create secure environments where confidential meetings take place, such as politicians or some intercontinental meetings where none of the matters should be recorded. So we can implement our devices there where the words exchange stays within the room.
So will it hit privacy issues because you're accessing the mobile of others? Wonder, are you accessing the mobile?
No, we are actually not accessing the mobile. It's completely independent.
You're feeding a noise in it.
No, we are just.
Millie is asking. Got it. Right. Sorry. Millie is asking, will it work for music events in the open areas? I guess yes.
Yes. It will. It's applicable. Yes, sir. Go on.
Go ahead.
So it is applicable.
Radiation or transmission issues?
Sorry. Radiation model is a generic model designed to be application specific. So the place where the music plays or the sound plays, our model makes that sound inaudible to be recorded.
Okay. You said radiation transmission issues are nil, or what did you say?
It's completely ultrasonic device model. So we are not dealing with the radio frequency.
Yeah, but you will have to certify that it has no human impact. Next is, will it impact making and receiving calls during the movie? For example, making emergency calls.
Yeah, the person who wants to make a call should come outside of the movie theater to make a call.
Okay. So Omar is asking, is it harmful? So you will have to convince that yes, this is still okay to be used by humans. Ashok says, how will it effectively be used for the content of the publisher and not disrupt a phone conversation in the same arena? So Ashok, he said that you will have to go out of the theater. In any case, it's not a good habit, good manners to talk on the phone in the hall. So obviously he says go out and take the call or make a call. It's an emergency. Unfortunately, yes, it looks like you'll have to go out. Ashok is asking, how different is this from Trilbit? You know Trilbit, right?
Yes, sir. Actually, we are actually solving this at a root cause. So any piracy to be occurred is to be started in recording in the theater. So initially, as we are trying to reduce disrupt the model at the root cause, there will be no extensions to be added.
Do you know what Trilbit does? The question is, how different is it from Trilbit? So Ashok, I think Trilbit is on a different mechanism, but Shyam, do you want to answer that?
Yes, sir. I have a few insights about 12-bit. So let me get back to you once we actually get to know more information about the 12-bit.
Okay. All right. Anybody else has a question? We are still doing in time. I wonder how. There's still 4 minutes to go. So if there are no questions, any questions, please? All right, no questions. Thanks a lot, Shyam. Thanks a lot for this. And there's a question, any success till now? Have you done a POC or any story, any success story?
Actually, we are in the stage of prototype model, and the prototype model results are quite satisfactory. We are able to disrupt the mic. So this will be now manufactured in the large scale to directly develop and implement in the movie theaters.
All right. Thanks, Shyam. Thanks a lot. If we have any other questions, we'll send it to you.